Hello everyone, I'm Misa Flint. I've just blown in. And today we are back with more Seduce Me 2, the Otome. Last time, we began looking at some side paths that aren't tied to the romances. You know, just some additional achievement content that I want to knock out. And we had the very heartbreaking outcome of a royal cremation, where we went back into Matthew's route and did just a few things differently and got a new outcome that we hadn't seen before. Yeah, it was not a good time. In addition to being incredibly heartbreakingly sad, there was also a little bit of a technical difficulty where I wasn't able to use the skip button as much as I would have needed to have a very quick experience. Which, yes, that brings me up to my warning again. If you are interested in seeing all of the content I'm going to be skipping over, unless it's new, I recommend going back to the beginning of video 1 of this Let's Play and starting from there and going all the way through. 1, because any of the views, and 2, I do not have the time to sit and play through everything again, as I've already shown all of the romance paths. So let us begin again today, as we do one more achievement. This time, last time we were Matthew, and this time we're gonna hop down to Black and go into Damien's route one more time.
Hold on
Hi,
there.
Kay.
Before you start the game.
Yes, I know.
Oh.
Yep,
Oh.
you know.
Awesome.
Nah, I'm good.
All right then.
And for just to speed things along, I am going to be Nika in showing all of these routes, just to keep things moving. Yay, the skip button works properly this time. I don't know why it wasn't working for Matthews. You know what? It's alright. And we're back to not having the skip button. I smiled. It was okay if you liked cute things. There was no need to overreact over it. Yay, and the skip button's back. I'm a listen to my mind because I love my mind. I spend every day with it. I had to relax. Now was not the time to let my libido take over. I mean, I disagree. I didn't want to do anything after experiencing that kind of dream. I slowly began to pull my lips away, and Damien did the same, as if he already knew what I wanted. I smiled up at him and caressed his cheek. I feel better now. Thank you. Damien smiled back at me and nodded before nuzzling my hand and closing his eyes. He most likely had to calm down himself from the mood we had slowly started to inch towards. The feel of his skin made me elated, because it helped me remember that he was okay, and he was with me. That was all that mattered. It wasn't long before I closed my eyes and fell asleep again. This time, I was able to float in a blissful darkness uninterrupted, which is always important when sleeping. And the skip buttons returned, huzzah! I'm going to stay still, because reasons. And the skip buttons returned, yay! Is Diane okay? And no one's gonna answer that. That's fine. Are you okay, Diana? You're okay enough you brought the skip button with you. Huzzah. I must stay in the room because I do not want to be killed. Also, I will usually just choose to stay in the room most days. I will eat the stew, because the stew looks yummy. And press onward. I'ma go hug my hubby. Yay! Squeeze. And skip. And we're going to curse the demon lord, the motherfucker. Oh, I don't think it was that kind of curse they meant. Oh well. Skipping forward. And we're gonna tell Diana it's not fair that she doesn't want untrained civilians to fight. And we're gonna skip forward again. And we're walking to the room. And yeah, let's ask our cute little Cinnabon of a husband what he thinks about this whole thing. And we've seen what he thinks in the past, so we're gonna skip forward again. I'm just gonna snuggle. Let's just lie in his arms. I was stunned by the love I was given by Damien. Despite being human, he traveled through the gates of worlds to try and find me. I mean, yeah, you two were getting married. I was lucky to have a loving man such as him. My only regret was being in this world instead of at the altar with him. I simply pressed my forehead to his shoulder, closing my eyes and taking in the scent and love. I love you, Damien.
I love you too. More than you'll ever know.
Aww. I could hear here. I could hear here? Okay, I think that's a typo. I could hear his pounding heartbeat affirm his feelings for me, making me smile against him. I was beyond blessed. And also the skip buttons returned. Huzzah! What about you? And we see when we ask about him. And the meeting goes on. I'm not gonna say anything because these two need to have their pissing match without me in the middle. He was right. This was unfair. Diana swore to make him human. Oh, that's what we're talking about. Fair enough. And she tricked him into believing she had, despite the cruel tone of Damien's words. Diana deserved to hear each one. Yeah, that was kind of a shitty thing Diana did. And also the skip ends a 10. Huzzah. What would the others teach me? Because it's time for a trainer. You know what? I'm choose Sergeant. The big red guy. Diana nodded. Sergeant was the military commander, and I could tell he was strong, just from looking at him. He was my best bet in learning how to defend myself. Very true. And the skip buttons returned. Huzzah! I chose to train with Sergeant. He seemed to be skilled in combat, and he was the commander of the main army. So I trusted him to train me to be strong and dependable. I didn't want to be a silent observer in this war. I would pull my own weight. I know Taekwondo? ? Hey, buddy. Sergeant led me outside of the castle, onto an empty training ground. Footprints and wear showed in the space was well used. Well, yeah, there's a war on. But the only ones with the area at the moment were Sergeant and myself. The air seemed fresh and the faint smell of flowers and fauna swept past my nose. However, I didn't get time to enjoy the atmosphere.
Human, I will not waste my breath hollering at you like a soldier, but I expect you to listen like one. Now stop sniffing the air and face me.
Sir, yes, sir. Okay, I know I've actually had Sergeant before as a trainer, so I'm going to start just... Unfortunately, I cannot use the skip button again for some reason. It's almost like I think the game knows what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to randomly start clicking. I'm going to remain silent.
Rage is a form of raw energy.
Indeed.
Wild. However, then your humans are. Watch closely.
And I know we've trained with him, so this is the only reason I'm skipping. And you know what? I think it's very cool. Sergeant chuckled as he finally stopped walking. It was true, though. He was faster than I could catch and powerful enough to practically demolish the dummy. I was curious to see what he could do when he wasn't just training or showing off. Sergeant then pointed at a second dummy and ushered me forward.
Now, focus on your rage. You felt it already, but you need to rekindle it and capture it in your hand.
Okay. You know, this is not the anger management I thought I'd be getting today. My hand? Sergeant nodded before reaching over and lifting up my arm. Positioning it like how he did when he attacked the first dummy, it clicked. He wanted me to do the same thing he did. 'Cause that'll work, you know, me being a human, him being clearly a different species. And I think we've done this before. Yes.
Don't focus on.
You know what? What will motivate me to get my ass home? Let us think of the human world, even though it is a mess. I felt myself begin to remember the human world, my home, my family, and my entire life was waiting for me beyond the barrier of this world. My heart began to squeeze in sadness at the distance. I desperately wanted to go home. I wanted to crawl back into my bed and feel my sheets against my skin again. I wanted to see Naomi and Zuzu and my parents. I mean, my dad? Question mark. He was kind of abusive if you remember the first game. And, most of all, I wanted to finally say my vows and be the wife I was supposed to be. However, the more I thought about the human world, the smaller the flame within my soul became. Sadness and fear began to eat away at my rage. I could only snarl silently to myself. If I was going to get angry at anything, then I would be angry at my own doubt and emotions. Using that reason, I fueled myself. I'm my own energy drink. I couldn't be sad. Why the fuck would I let myself cry like that? I was forced to remain in this world, and I couldn't do anything about it. I wanted to go home, but my asshole, soon-to-be father-in-law, trapped me here. The more I thought of it, the more the flame within me grew. My body began to warm and heat and surge through my veins in response. Ooh, the pissed aura is here. And I know we've seen this before, so I'm going to start skipping forward.
Hey! Breathe!
Ah, the pissed aura has gone away.
There you go. Geez, you've got a lot of energy for a human.
Thank you.
Hell, just
Everything going?
we're
Hey,
good.
Dee.
That's good.
Suck.
Doubt it.
No,
Then what is?
nothing.
You forget.
Bye, Dee.
Some training you did back then, succubus.
Problem? Sergeant? Sergeant lifted his head to look at me before letting out a sigh.
What?
You're the one being weird. Are you okay? He seemed a bit miffed, but the idea was crossed out of my mind when he scoffed and shook his head.
I'm fine. Let's just get back to training.
Sir, yes, sir. And we do more training. And the skip button's returned. I've trained so hard.
Please, just stop!
Okay. I will stop doing anything. I let every part of my body become still. my thoughts, my limbs, everything apart from breathing and blinking. If Damien was hearing thoughts again, then he was probably getting bombarded with the castle worth of them, and I needed to make sure I wasn't adding to the pressure. Damien opened an eye to me, glazed over in tears, and smiled ever so slightly, knowing exactly what I was doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I let my emotions rumble in my chest as I nodded with a smile. I understood him perfectly. After all, I was going to be his wife. Yes, clearly that is everything. And so is the skip button. Huzzah. You know what? I'm not going to question my husband on his knees in front of Diana. I'm just not going to question it. I wasn't going to question it anymore. See? Everything was going to be sorted out eventually, and I could tell that was just adding more answers would only make organizing everything in my head much more chaotic. Yeah, I like to be empty-headed, in other words. Diana then turned on her heel and walked towards the door. Before she left, however, she turned back and looked to Damien.
Be careful how much you feed. You've been without energy for too long. You'll be craving soon.
Ah, he's jonesing. But it's for a hit of me, so that's fine. And the skip button's returned. He wants to be human very badly. You know what? You're just so handsome. Look at you, all shirtless and stuff. I didn't necessarily want to make this a big deal, so I avoided it by being cute. Ah. Well, my compliment was true. It was still a cover-up. All the concealer. Luckily, since Damien couldn't read my mind, he wouldn't know that. I mean, could he? Damien smiled a bit and rubbed the back of his neck.
And you look beautiful.
Aw, such a good guy. Another wave of red crashed over my cheeks, making me grin from ear to ear. He was so sweet to me. How did I deserve him? The same way I deserved the skip button. I headed towards the west side of the castle, knowing Sergeant would either be there outside expecting me, or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him. We got this. Woo! I headed towards... Okay, I read that. Hello? Are you? I think we've met him before. What I wasn't expecting was to see another male in the field, brandishing a large warhammer. Okay, we met Mr. Warhammer. He seemed very intimidating, but I seemed to be less threatening than when I first met Sergeant. He, however, had a hard gaze in my direction. Who?
Human, you do not belong here.
Agreed. I stared at the stranger, seeing him raise his warhammer and slam it into the ground in front of him. As the hammer impacted, the earth began to quake, and a large crack in the earth began to form, tearing its way towards me. Oh, this is not going to go well. I'm attack. Oh, fuck, we're in another time section. I glared at my attacker, feeling the spark in my soul start to burn as I began to rush forward. With each step, the fire within me continued to grow larger, increasing the energy flowing within my body and forcing me forward. My feet skipped over the sides of the growing crack in the earth, soon becoming inaudible and light the closer I got to my opponent. Within seconds, I was in front of the attacker with a raised fist. I slammed my fist into the being's chest, but quickly broke out of my rage state, as my hit didn't send him flying back. Armor. His AC is too high. The pain that jolted through my hand caused me to jump back and grip my fingers tightly. It was like trying to deck a steel wall. Yeah, I don't recommend that. I was pretty sure I had broken my hand from the force I put behind it. Again, why did you go for the armor? There's plenty of exposed skin. Yeah. What the hell? I quickly looked at my opponent as he lifted his warhammer and arced it to slam down onto my body. A pain within my hand coursed through my body, leaving me frozen.
Enough!
Hey, buddy. The hammer stopped its descent toward me, freezing right above my head. I stared at the surface that would have crushed me, slightly shaking at the realization of the situation. I could have been pulverized. You could, but you weren't. Hey, you. I slowly looked over to Sergeant to see him walking over from the forest line. The stranger lifted his warhammer and rested it on his shoulder as he stepped back from me. This was planned? Yeah. It's not good to only train against one person. It only teaches you how to fight that person and that person only.
Your hand all right?
No, bastard. I looked down at last at my hand, fully taking in the sight of how mangled it had become. Ow. It was quickly swelling and bruising, and I could tell. And I could feel the dislocation of a couple of fingers. Yeah, maybe not hit a breastplate next time. Maybe it was the adrenaline rushing through me that blocked me from screaming at the pain. Or maybe this was me getting stronger. Sergeant grimaced at the sight and walked over, taking my hand and observing it.
Yeah, it's fucked up pretty good.
Uh-huh. It's almost like you should have fucking warned me.
I'm sorry, sir.
Hey, it's not your fault I punched you in your breastplate.
Nah, you did your job. Stand down for now, Danthulir.
Yeah, Danthalier. I looked to the stranger, to see him nod and take another step back away from me. Sergeant, however, grasped my hand, causing a jolt of pain to rush down my arm. He is not a gentle guy, is he? Ow! I think we've seen this before, so I'm
There.
just gonna skip forward.
Better?
Somewhat. Oh, he healed me. Cool beans.
Now.
I aimed for his chest? That's what I did wrong. Yes.
He's my right.
Aw,
Yours
nice to
fine,
know who your
but-
next in line is.
Welcome. Listen. Long the cheap, the weak, the Do you... Danthulir?
Wait, what?
Danthulir? Beat her ass to the ground.
Boo? Wait, what? Oh, Danthy. Time to dance. Enraged Pistora.
What? Now you're done for...
Yes, I am done for the day. So's the skip button.
Oh, I can't wait until you realize who I actually am. The expression on...
Tell me. This game was becoming too insane. This was some voice in my head, taunting me and laughing at my struggles, to make it stop playing games with me. The voice only laughed.
I don't need to tell you anything, dear. You'll have to figure out that little detail on your own.
I'm not smart. What's stopping me from just ignoring you?
You can't. I'm always there, tickling your brain and reminding you of what you truly believe.
Huh. And I believe in the skip button. We'll give him a kissy. I'm gonna kiss his cheek again. I'm going to put myself in the middle of this fight. It may have been Diana's form of redemption, but it was still potentially risking Damien's life. Who knew if this would work at all, let alone successfully turn him to a human without killing him? Diana, this is insane.
But it's the only option there is.
Diana looked to me and stared into my soul, making me almost freeze up in place from the intensity of her stare. While you're poking around inside my soul, can you figure out what the hell the voice I've been hearing is? I have questions.
I lost my family despite having the energy to drive the Demon Lord away from them. I've received my due punishment for this mistake, and now I'm going to make it right. It is up to him if he wishes to become a human or not.
True. I looked over at the skip button who's returned. Huzzah! I expected today's training to be full of fighting and brawling, just like the last time. However, as I left the castle, I spotted Sergeant sitting on the ground, looking down at a bowl. Okay, we've seen this.
Minzy, it's a... only... Are you... Are you doubting yourself already?
Yeah, I get nothing to say to that. I remained silent, not wanting to verbally show my fear. However, I couldn't deny that I was doubting myself. Who wouldn't? Sergeant shook his head and let out a sigh. Uh-oh. I have made him unhappy.
If you're not sure, then don't bother. Just leave.
Okay.
I'm not going to waste my time.
Nice meeting you. His words stung, but I knew that he was serious. This was my chance to show him, and myself, that I was strong enough to protect myself. At least for this war. As opposed to? How many more wars is Mika gonna be in? I just needed to swallow my fear and do as he said. But what if I wasn't ready? What if this test proved to be fatal? What if I die without having a chance to survive? I don't know what I was walking into. Well, does anyone really? Don't do it, do it. You know what? Do it. I had to try. I had to. This was going to help me. Then I had to do my best. Like any good little anime protagonist. I looked to Sergeant once more and shook off the fear from my expression, showing him that I was ready. Sergeant grinned a bit before gathering some dirt in his hand and tossing it over the bowl and incense. As the dirt collided into the bowl, a red flash sparked and burst from it, causing me to shut my eyes to block the visual impact. After a second, I opened my eyes again to see what had happened. A large red flame sat in the mouth of the bowl, dissolving the incense into it, and leaving nothing but the licking tongues of fire that seemed to burn immensely, not showing any signs of dying.
Reach into the flame and touch the bottom of the bowl with 2 fingers.
Yeah, this'll... You know that humans are flammable, right? And I'm
You're
gonna
not
skip forward,
what
because
you're-
I do remember
Good.
we've done
When
this
you're ready.
before.
Your turn now! got... Don't over...
What the hell did you do?
Yeah, what the hell did you do?
I was training her.
Like you asked her to.
And that requires a means ingenere?
Apparently.
Are you judging my training methods?
I'm judging your common sense.
Ouch. Uh-oh. Mommy and Daddy are mad at each other. And I know we've seen these two fight before,
That
so
was-
Watch
I'm
it.
gonna
doesn't
skip
mean-
over it.
Ah!
Ooh. She is really kind of pissed.
How dare you attack me? I am the one who honored your people, and you have the gall to turn and strike at me. Where does your loyalty lie?
What the hell happening here is they're having a pissing match over me.
You truly thought you could hurt me. I've been fighting the Demon Lord himself for over 10 years. You're nothing compared to him.
Sergeant looked up at Diana with a pained glare of his own, as Diana turned and took a single step away from him.
I will overlook that act of treason this once, but know your place, brute.
You know, I have a feeling you and Sam, you should hang out, Sergeant. As Diana's face turned away from Sergeant, I could see a look of change in Diana's eyes, going from pure arrogance to a sudden realization and regret. However, she shut her eyes and let out a slight sigh, as she took another step away from us. Mommy's mad. With that, Diana walked away, her flame-like aura completely gone from her body. Sergeant, however, didn't move and simply watched until she entered the castle and vanished from sight. As she did, Sergeant let out a sigh. I slowly sat up, taking in what had happened. What was wrong with Diana? I mean, other than the immense pressure and stress she must be under, as well as the grief of losing her family? Why did she act like that? Why was Sergeant so on the offensive? I looked over at my trainer to see him slowly stand. As I did, I noticed a very heavily burnt mark where Diana had punched him. You know, as so clearly shown in the art. Are you okay?
I'll be fine.
Uh-huh. I don't believe you. I could tell that Diana had gotten under his skin. I was concerned as to why Diana acted the way she did. But as Sergeant stood and shook his head, he looked at me.
You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. I nodded, feeling much better than I had before. Diana's magic must have healed me from whatever the test effects were. I quickly stood up and grinned. So, what now? Sergeant took a moment to look at me, but I knew that I had to take his mind off of Diana to get back into properly training. I wasn't mad at him about the test. I mean, I'd be, but my character's better natured than I am. It gave me a good punching bag. He then let out a small laugh and crossed his arms.
You should have been born a demon. You've
I
got
know,
the
right?
will to be one.
I know, right? I'm pretty sure there's one verse where I am. I couldn't help but feel flattered at the compliment as I smiled. Sergeant walked over to the dummy I was beating on earlier and set it up.
You proved yourself by passing the test. Now, we'll take the time to master what skills you have.
Cool beans. I walked over and stood in front of the dummy, ready for his instruction. I was able to defend myself and fight. That was the goal of the entire process. I spent the rest of the day sparring with the dummy, Danthalar, and Sergeant himself to sharpen my skills and make them better. I was completely exhausted by the time I was sent back to my room. And back to my skip button. And you know, the upthink, should Yo Damien become a human or not? You know what? If it makes you happy, you should do that then. Good for you. Shut up, voice in my head. My mental shout made the voice silence itself. I'd had enough of its torment, its teasing and prodding. Nothing was going to go wrong. I mean... I glared into the dark, gritting my teeth. We're going to be fine. Damien will be human, and we'll leave this world for good. Question mark. ... And the skip button's returned. Huzzah! I'm going to think of Damien. And... you know what? Take me instead. And we've seen what happens when we say take me instead. I began to make my way back to my room, but stopped as I heard the sound of whispered voices sneak out through the barely opened door.
So, we're all in agreement?
Ooh.
We have to. We don't have any choice anymore.
Go on.
It will be for the better, I'm sure.
Indeed.
I peeked into the room to see the interior of the library, where the 4 rebel leaders stood in a circle. Sergeant leaned against the fireplace mantel, while Rabbit and Shadow sat in the 2 empty chairs. Faye, however, floated to and fro from side to side in anxiousness. What were they talking about? Stuff that's absolutely none of my business. We should get moving. I was so engrossed in figuring out what was happening in the room that I didn't notice a figure coming up behind me and pushing me into the room. Gah!
Commander, a spy.
Damn it, Damphy. I thought we were good. Hi, everybody.
Huh? Human?
Yeah, human. Your favorite student? Question mark? I grimaced, now out in the open. The 4 stared at me with cold eyes, as if they were ready to send me back to the human world as a corpse, rather than going through with the siege. I don't know, Faye doesn't look like they want to hurt me. I looked up at all of them as I slowly rose to my feet, eyeing each leader, and as I considered running for the door. However, they each looked to each other in contemplation.
Say, you didn't hear anything, did you?
No, I swear. Oh god, I'm gonna fail this skill check.
What was the last thing you heard?
Something about it being for the better? I suddenly felt the guards of each leader behind me readying their weapons. What the hell? Were they seriously going to kill me for walking by and eavesdropping? Mika, read the room. I think they're plotting regicide. Or at the very least, a coup, after they overthrow the Demon Lord.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold on, guys!
Thanks, Faye. I felt the guards back away from me slowly, most likely still cautious of me. I let out a small sigh, happy that I wasn't going to die, at least not immediately. Rabbit, however, looked at me with an ear twitching in curiosity.
Let us ask first. Do you know what has been truly happening with Diana?
No? I looked to Rabbit, knowing what she meant. Diane had been acting oddly, and it was not boding well. The more I saw her, I could tell that something was seriously weighing her down, or influencing her words. Yeah, but what does that have to do with this meeting? As I answered, the other demons looked once again at each other, before Shadow stepped forward nonchalantly.
Let's not play the ignorance game. We're going to assassinate the succubus when the war is over.
Ah, so I was right. Regicide. What?
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know, right?
Way to just blurt it out! There's no use in hiding it. We don't know how much she has heard.
True. I became massively confused. Why were they going to kill her? How were they even going to do it? Why? What good would come out of killing her? Rabbit stood and walked to the fireplace, staring into the open flames. I could tell I was about to get an answer, so I listened intently, wanting to know why they were planning Diana's murder.
Diana, we fear, has become corrupted.
Like my save files? Corrupted? What do you mean?
Meaning she's going batshit crazy like the Demon Lord.
Ah. Can't we just, get her some therapy or something? I furrowed my eyebrows. That couldn't be. She seemed mostly fine, save for a few instances here and there. Sergeant, reading my face, pushed himself off of the mantel and stood up straight, reminding me of his power with his stance.
Human, you hate the Demon Lord as much as we do, correct?
Uh-huh. I glared at Sergeant's stupid question. Of course I hated him. He had trapped me here and forced me, and the ones I loved, to join this war. There was no reason to even remotely like him. Out of my glare, Faye swooped in between me and Sergeant, waving their arms frantically.
Listen, we're not trying to make you mad, but... well...
Yes?
This is ridiculous.
Is it? Shadow stood away from his seat, now clearly irritated, and stepped towards me.
The succubus has gone mad, and if we don't end her life before she takes the throne, then she will become as mad as the Demon Lord. There is no saving her. Understand?
So, not mad as in angry, mad as in insane. Okay.
Oh, come on, Shadow! Seriously?
Hey, I would rather deal with someone who's not gonna, talk in riddles.
No, this is beyond unnecessary. All three of you are complicating the matter when all that needs to be stated is the truth.
Exactly. Thumbs up. 10 out of 10 do agree. But how can that be? How is Diana mad like the Demon Lord? None of this made sense. Diana seemed mostly right in her head. However, she was strong enough to lead an army and help me survive until now. She even aided the incubi. These weren't the actions of a madwoman. Question mark. Shadow rolled his eyes and went back to his seat as Faye put their hands behind their back, swaying a bit in the air.
Well, here's the thing. Here in the demon world, emotions and stuff can be uber powerful. Things like extreme grief or euphoria can even become energies on their own, while other feelings become, well, they can become very, very bad things.
Really? Can I talk about this voice in my head for a minute? Like madness?
Yeah. Madness is more than just a head-mind thingy. Here in this world, it's like a leech or a virus. When a demon catches it, madness just grows and grows until it consumes them. Like it did with the Demon Lord.
Uh-huh. And taking the new information in, I looked to the floor, thinking of the Demon Lord and how psychotic he was said to have become. He waged wars and apparently enjoyed burning down kingdoms and slaughtering the innocent. That was how far madness would take a demon, and I feared for anyone who was capable of falling into it.
You can become mad in multiple ways. By being born mad or being infected by it. Diana has fought the Demon Lord head on multiple times during the past 10 years. It was inevitable that she would catch the affliction.
Huh. You can catch madness? How is that possible? Were you not listening? Magic.
We don't know, but this wouldn't be the first time someone who used to be sane went mad because they were around another crazy demon.
There was an uneasiness in the room. Something told me that none of them believed that that was the true cause. There's more, isn't there?
Huh?
I became bold. If Diana had to die, then there had to be a solid reason, and the madness excuse wasn't enough. Why were they planning it if none of them truly believed it? It's not just because she's mad, isn't it? Something else is wrong. The rebel leaders became silent, letting the tension lay in the air, in plain view, and giving me my answer. I was right, there was more to the story.
That succubus doesn't deserve the throne. Plain and simple.
Okay. And then who does? I looked at Sergeant, surprised at his words. As he looked at me, I could see a world of anger behind his eyes. So I'm guessing today's little smackdown was not the first time.
This world needs a real leader on the throne. Not some self-entitled princess who assumes everything is hers just because of her rank in society.
And ordinarily, I'd agree with that, but you are talking regicide. You really think that of her?
I do. The moment I swore my alliance to this rebellion, I watched her, and I don't like what I see. She's emotional and she has too much power. Nothing about her taking the throne is honorable.
Okay. But that warrants death? Yeah, unfortunately with a monarchy that's, active, with no counter check in place, yeah, sometimes you just have to get the mad ruler off the throne.
Don't you get it? If
No.
we tell her to step down, then the ones who follow her will force her right back in. She's too powerful to be left alive.
Yeah, she is much beloved. I grimaced. Sergeant had his reasons, and obviously they were noble to him, but I didn't understand. Rabbit shook her head, tapping her staff on the ground.
Regardless, we can't have you remembering the conversation we had here if we are set on stopping her.
I took a step back, now afraid. Were they really going to kill me? They sensed my fear and waved their hands wildly.
Whoa! Hey, hold on! We're not gonna hurt you or anything!
I mean, you might not, but the other three I'm not so sure of. That was somewhat of a relief, but what were they going to do? As I took a breath, Shadow spoke up, catching my attention.
I'm curious, human. Do you believe in the succubus?
That's a loaded question. What? What? The other rebel leaders looked to Shadow as he placed a hand on his chin in thought and peered into my eyes.
Who do you believe should rule this world? The succubus? Or one of us?
And suddenly, I became the focal point of the entire war's resolution. Why was my opinion important? I looked at the floor, trying to mull over his question, and come up with an answer. Diana had saved my life, and was doing everything to make sure I could go back to the human world as safely as possible. Still, from how she was behaving, something was indeed seriously off with her. Was she really ready to take the throne? The 4 rebel demons before me, however, were all smart and balanced each other out in some shape or form. And I could tell that they could all bring peace to the world in some way. But did Diana really have to be eliminated for that to happen? Yeah, probably. I felt like I was standing on a precipice. I knew that if I sided with Diana, then she would eventually be eliminated by these four, unless she found out beforehand. I could warn her, haha, you won't get the chance. But what if these demons erased my memories or threatened my life? Or, your future hubby's life. I was balancing on the edge of a knife, and I had to pick the direction to fall. I closed my eyes and answered Shadow's question. I believe in I believe in you four because beginning of democracy, and there's a balance and not one of you has all the power. They were right. She was very powerful, and if she truly was corrupted, then she needed to be cut off before she caused any damage. Thoughts of revenge bubbled in my mind, reminding me of how horrible she had been in the human world when she tried to take the boys away from me. She had the gall to take my energy and test me at school as some sort of sadistic teacher. Oh yeah, that shit happened. She had this coming to her. Never mind the fact, the reason why she did all those things. Never mind that. The four in the room stared at me, taking in my reply.
I'm fairly shocked.
Are you? Why?
Well, now what do we do with her?
Let me go? Thumbs up? Know I'm on your side? I waited as the group looked to each other before Faye magically formed a small vial in her hand.
Should we give it to her? She's close enough to her.
Huh? Give me what? Oh, we're doing this plot. Faye ignored me and passed the vial to Shadow, who began to imbue it with his own dark magic. Slowly, the glass began to fill with a dark, inky liquid, stopping a quarter of the way up. Was it poison? Shadow passed it to Rabbit, who did the same, creating a purple liquid within the vial, and swirling it around to mix the liquids together. The contents separated a bit, causing a strangely beautiful gradient effect. A sergeant took hold of it. It began to fill with green liquid, becoming mixed with poison already within the vial. Finally, Faye took the vial back and shoved a cork into the top before shaking the mixture violently. As they did, a strange gray energy began to glow around it, pulsing like a heartbeat and slowing until eventually faded away.
There.
From the tone in their voice, the decision to truly go through with this was solidified. They all were serious in wanting Diana to die. I felt a little pity for what was to come. Faye turned and floated to me, holding out the vial.
We were gonna give this to her during the final celebration after the siege, but we're pretty sure that guard will be watching her like a hawk.
Okay, so I'm supposed to roofie her drink? And why give it to me?
Because she trusts you. I have a theory that she'll pull you aside, away from everyone else, to have a little chat before you're sent back to the human world.
Okay. How can you be so sure? Shadow smirked.
Because when we tried to send you home, she tried to slip in an extra item onto the spell reagent list. And according to my recent studies, it is actually very important to demons like her. I suspect that she was going to give it to you as a gift.
Ah.
Since the gate spell didn't work, she probably took the time to find it herself. She'll take you aside and give it to you before you leave, which will give you the chance to be alone with her.
And then I roofie the drink. Gotcha. I was surprised. Diana was going to give me something important? I was curious as to what it was, but my thoughts trailed off as I stared at Faye's hands, which was still holding the vial of poison.
I guess it was a good thing you listened in then. Makes our job a bit easier.
Yeah. Make me an accomplice. I slowly reached out and took the vial, feeling a very subtle heartbeat emit from it. It took every ounce of will I had not to drop it in surprise. Was this thing alive? I brought it close and examined it, practically feeling its power. If Diana was as powerful as they expected, then how powerful was this poison? I was paying such close attention to the vial in my hand that I didn't see Faye swooping back behind me and grabbed my head. What the?
Sorry.
Are you? All at once, my mind began to become fuzzy and light. What was happening to me?
Is that really necessary?
I mean, is anything we do really necessary?
It will lower the risk of her telling anyone about our plans until the chance arises. When it does, she'll remember everything and know what to do.
Okay. You're making me a sleeper agent now? I would forget about this? How did that make sense? Magic. Duh. Remember when I used to be smart? I didn't get a chance to fight back until my vision blacked out. I shut my eyes and felt the world spin around me before I relaxed as silence overtook my senses. My body floated for a bit in an empty void before softly landing on a surface, causing me to open my eyes and look around. Huh? What happened? I was in the hallway on the floor. How did I get here? I was on my way to my room. Weird. I stood up and brushed myself off and looked around, hoping that no one saw me snoozing on the floor. When I noted the coast was clear, I quickly continued on my way to my room. I must have been more than tired than I thought. And the skip button's returned. Huzzah! And it's time for sleep. Good night, everybody. We would survive. We would be okay. I felt safe in Damien's arms, and I'm sure he felt safe in mine. We would return to the human world and be okay. Damien slowly walked me back to the bed, and both of us tucked ourselves in, wrapping each other in our arms and escaping one last time to the darkness of slumber. Tomorrow would decide everything. And so would the skip button.
When you get to the castle, I will be fighting one-on-one with the Demon Lord. If something should happen to me, then I need you to take over. She is not ready to fight him, and you need to be at full strength to finish him off.
She'll be fine. Don't go doubting her strength just yet.
Aw, thanks. My mentor likes me. I'm actually pretty sure we've seen this before. So I'm going to skip over it, even though I don't have access to a skip button. My apologies. There we go. Fight, fight, fight. I'm gonna calm my hubby down, because he does not need to be involved in this. Fight, we win the day, we go, we celebrate later, and Diana wants to pull me aside. So yeah, let's go follow her. Because, you know, it's not like I have something I should do to her, or something I should give to her. Guess we'll see.
To be very honest, I didn't expect to ever see you again. After I took your energy that night, I vowed to never deal with humans again.
Good.
No clairvoyance could have told me about you coming into play in this war.
Aw. I wasn't exactly counting on coming here. I still don't want to be here, to be perfectly honest. Diana chuckled, grinning a bit.
Very understandable, dear. A week in a world not your own would make anyone uncomfortable.
Well, I was supposed to get married.
Oh, I had almost forgotten. I guess this will be my last night, won't it?
I turned my head to Diana in confusion. She didn't look to me and continued to smile at the sky. What was she talking about? In Diana's hands formed a small goblet containing a dark liquid I assumed to be wine. She placed the goblet towards me on the balcony without looking and waited. She avoided looking towards me as she waited for something to happen. What was she? Then I felt a small weight in my pocket, and memories fled back into my mind. I stared at Diana in shock when I realized what she was doing. She knew? And she was willing to take it? I stared at the goblet, now measuring the worth of this action. The vial in my pocket could be so many things. A sleeping draught, a poison, acid. Diana, however, seemed to be accepting of whatever it was. I became suddenly conflicted. Did I want to do this to her? Yes. Yes, I do. I bit my lip. I didn't feel right, but I knew what I had to do. I made a promise, and it had to be done. I silently took the vial from my pocket and uncorked it, feeling the magic of the liquid within waft from the open top. It had a slightly foul stench, but before it could reach Diana's nose, I poured the contents into the goblet. The wine gently brightened from purple to a green color. I swore for a second that it reflected a black skull in its reflection, but it faded away almost as quickly as that it appeared. I kinda wish we could have seen that. I felt the crown on my head wither and fade away as I quickly tossed the vial off the balcony rail behind me into the dark. For some reason, I felt like crying, but I knew what had to be done. Finally, I cleared my throat, letting Diana know that I was done. Diana finally turned to me and looked to the goblet, watching the liquid within it glimmer in the moonlight. I could faintly hear Diana gulp to herself as she took the goblet in her hand and looked into it. Mika, ...
You know, I'm thankful it was you who did this.
I stared at Diana, feeling her gift drop from behind my ear and fall into the dark beyond the balcony. She continued to stare into her goblet with a very sad smile across her lips.
I don't deserve to rule this world. I've done what I set out to do, and now that the war is over, my job is done. I'm glad that you are the one to let me know that.
Well, at least she's accepting this with dignity. Diana shook her head, silencing me.
It's all right. I understand. As vain and prideful as it sounds, I'm too powerful to be left alive.
Exactly. She then lifted the goblet and turned to face me slightly, closing her eyes and smiling as if nothing was wrong.
One last drink, then, for a job well done.
My heart squeezed tightly in my chest as I watched Diana lift the goblet to her lips and drink down what was within it. Her eyes tightened and her face grimaced with the consumption, most likely at the taste, but she drank the entire thing down. As she lowered the goblet to the railing, she took in a shaky breath and tightened her grip on the rail. Was it affecting her already?
I guess They wanted it to be painless. How kind.
How kind indeed. I'm sorry.
Don't be. It's done.
Diana tossed the goblet into the dark and watched it arc through the air before fading into the night. She then turned and sat on the bed in the room, slumping slightly as she settled into the middle of it. I stared as the taint in her skin began to glow slightly. Diana looked up at me and smiled, leaning back against the bedpost.
You should go, dear. I'm sure your husband is waiting for you. May your journey back to the human world be safe. And may you live a happy life.
I'm sorry. I couldn't say anything else to her. I nodded and left the room, silent. I slowly made my way through the halls of the castle, back towards where my husband and the rest of the group was. I was a murderer. I had technically usurped the throne from the almost queen, and now I had to live with that. And by live with that, have no repercussions whatsoever as I run back to the human world. However, I stopped as I spotted a figure ahead of me. Sergeant stood just ahead of me with a stoic look on his face. Why did he look that way? He wasn't the one who did the deed. Yeah, he may not have been, but he was still very much accomplice to it.
Mission complete?
Yes, sir. I nodded, not able to speak. Sergeant nodded back to me before he walked towards me, stopping in front of me. That is way too many knees in that sentence. Please rewrite.
You did the right thing.
Did
the
I?
demon world will be a much better place without her.
Will it? Mika, ... Even Mika doesn't agree with you. I didn't want to speak to him. I had fulfilled my promise, and I would have to live with the memory of it forever. However, what about, all the imp demons I've slayed over the years, and, eating imp demon stew the first day when you brought me food? Well, not you, but Rabbit. Do those deaths not count? It's just Diana's we're gonna feel sorry for? It's a nitpick at this late hour, but it's still worth bringing up. Anyway. However, I didn't expect him to touch my head and cast a spell.
Well done.
Thank you? I stared wide-eyed, watching in surprise as my mind became lighter. Memories of what had happened began to slowly dissolve, and my heart became lighter at the loss of the memories. Was this some kind of joke? No, he's literally letting you off the hook for helping. Before I knew it, I felt at ease where I stood. I was in the middle of the hallway with Sergeant. Unsure of why I was there, or what had happened.
There you are. Stop wandering around. The others are waiting for you.
Yeah, they are. I should get back to them. I stared at Sergeant, confused, but determined to return to the others. They were waiting, and I was about to go home. I nodded with a smile before walking back with him towards the main hall. And yes, I completely rewrote that sentence, and no, I'm not going to reread it. I was going home.
Well, you did it! Congratulations! You've made it to the end of your story. I have to say, I am very surprised at how it turned out.
Me too.
Nevertheless, I'm glad things worked out in the end, whether it was for the better or otherwise. Despite everything Damien went through, it was all worth it to obtain his humanity and to be truly happy, don't you think?
Not the choice I'm thinking about, actually.
He got his revenge for... Anyways, you've been through a lot. Huh? You want to know what happened after the war? After the war was finished, the entire rebellion celebrated. Word spread far and wide about the rebellion's success, and soon every kingdom in the abyssal plains had become united with the new authority.
The new authority? Question mark?
You would think demons would be more hostile towards each other, being demons and all, but the threat of the Demon Lord was what brought the entire world together. Because of... well... because you decided to kill Diana.
No, I
the
didn't.
rebels were able to take over and unite the world under their rule. I still will never understand why you did it, but I guess you had your reasons.
Because I'm achievement hunting.
I'll be honest though, they don't exactly work well together. While the world accepted them as the rulers, the four of them really couldn't get it together.
That's sad to hear.
So they decided that only one of them should rule while the others should be advisors.
That's no good.
It took them a while to decide who to let take the crown. When the other three voted for Sargent to take the throne, he outright refused. He didn't believe himself to be worthy of it at all and practically demanded that the four of them work out whatever issues they had.
I'm both happy and sorry to hear that. Also, by the way, achievement unlocked. Sergeant's Defiance.
They eventually did, and worked out a way to bring the world to a steady, if not consistently returning, peace. It wasn't totally different from how the world was before the rule, but at least it wasn't riddled with wars.
Step forward, step back.
Sargent took it on himself to make sure that there were no possibilities of any genocide amongst any race in the Abyssal Plains, though.
Good.
He is one truly admirable brute demon. And I believe that is everything that happened after... well, except for your story, anyway.
And my story is not important because the reality is it's been concluded elsewhere. I have shown you all of Damien's endings in other playthroughs. So I'm going to call the video to a close here. Until next, tak likatelak hido.